All right, we got our sexiest guest ever back onto this little program. Kyle Green, how you doing, bro?
Hey, good, good.
Good. I wanted to hop on and talk with you real quick about the first-time homebuyer incentive program. Just locked down some more details. You know, they originally announced it back in the Fed budget, which is March earlier this year, I believe, maybe April. And back then there was still some question marks that needed to be sorted out. And so for first-time home buyers, which is a lot of people who come to our meetup, a lot of people that you work with, who are either stuck in that kind of rental circle and can't quite get to that, 5, 10, 20% down for other investment property or single-family residence, this could be a really good way to get into the market, get out of that rental zone with some additional assistance, especially with the, not the spec tax, the first-time home buyer tax, whatever it was called. So yeah, first question I have for you is, has your opinion changed on this incentive program now that we have all of the details versus back in March when it was originally announced?
Not really, no. So the core of the program hasn't really changed. You always expect with these government incentives when they come out that there's going to be some pros and cons. There are some cons to it, and more. I think more importantly, what we found was that now that they've really fleshed it out, there's just a lot of limitations to it. So there's a lot of reasons that for a lot of buyers, especially in Vancouver and Victoria, it won't even be applicable for them because of the maximums and limits that they put on the program. So yeah, I'm not really surprised with what's come out, but again, there's pros and cons, and it won't make sense for everybody.
Yeah. So before we get into any of the negatives, let's start on a positive note. Who is this program for, and what's the positivity behind it?
Yeah. So the program overall will allow you to borrow 5% to 10% of the purchase price. So 5% of its used property and up to 10% of its brand new property. And you don't pay any interest or payments on it until you sell the property, or once the term of the loan is up in 25 years. So you have a long time to repay it. You don't pay it back until the home is sold. They call it a home partnership program for a reason, because what happens is they are partnering up with you, and you are repaying them not on an interest basis, but based off of the appreciation of the property. So if they lent you 5%, that means that when you do sell the property later, they want 5% of the lift in the value of the property over that time period. That's what it really comes down to. So one of the cool benefits that they've decided to introduce here, though, is that, and I think probably the most relevant one, is that number one, you're borrowing more money with a, well, I should say, you're borrowing the same amount of money, but now a portion of your mortgage will not have payments. So as a first-time home buyer, you're going to be able to shave off a bit of your payments per month. It doesn't work out in most cases to be a lot. You're looking at maybe just over $100 a month for your typical borrower, depending on the amount that you're borrowing, of course. But it's shaving off $100 a month helps. Another aspect that really saves money is that the CMHC premiums are tiered. So with 5% down, you pay a higher percentage on the CMHC than you do with 10% down, and vice versa, 15%. So the nice thing is that if you only have 5% saved up and the government's giving you an extra 5% down, then your CMHC premium is going to be based off of 10% down. And the way the math works out on that is, if you were borrowing and getting a $400,000 mortgage, the CMHC premium difference between 5% and 10% down is 0.9%, which works out to be $3,600 in savings. So not bad. You don't see that, but when you eventually sell the property, get rid of it, your mortgage will be $3,600 less than it would have been with that CMHC premium being at 5% instead of 10%. So that's probably the biggest tangible benefit, other than the payments. Those are the two big ones.
Yeah, so payments go down because your mortgage is, in all essence, bigger, right? Or sorry, smaller.
Yeah.
The loan aspect of it. And so me as a first-time home buyer, as long as I'm not buying a new construction home, I'm buying a used product, as you said, I can come up with my own 5%, and then the CMHC incentive program is going to give me another 5%, totaling 10% for my down payment into the house.
Yeah.
Property, which the other aspect of it too, and I might have missed it, is that the amount that you're qualifying for is now less as well, right? Which can help people get into that kind of like threshold piece of the market, right?
Yeah, although the reality here is that the qualifications remain essentially the same. One of the big downsides to the program is that there are limitations on the household income that they'll allow. So they won't allow anybody to qualify for the program if they earn over $120,000 a year in household income. Which unfortunately means that they also look at it and say, well, we also will not allow for a loan that's more than 4 times that annual income. So the maximum loan into the program would be $480,000. That doesn't buy you a lot in Vancouver. That would be a $500,000 purchase price with 5% down, so $20,000. It's not going to qualify people for a lot, and unfortunately in Vancouver, that's buying you. I don't know what it buys you in Vancouver.
Maybe a studio in Abbotsford.
Doing the math in my head, it's like $1,000 a square foot. So I guess technically you buy something for 400. That's 450 to 500 square feet in Vancouver. It's not a lot. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is that it's helping people get into the market, but it's really helping the lower end. It's not going to help a lot of people in the Vancouver market. But I suppose if you're buying a 1-bedroom condo in Maple Ridge or something like that, it's going to help you out a little bit, but you're also borrowing less money, which means you're probably not taking $100 off of your mortgage payment. It might be 50 or 75 bucks a month, which lowers the overall value of the incentive itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of sounds like this is a program really based for like the secondary markets, not like your Toronto, Vancouver's, even Victoria. Like it's going to be really hard to get pretty much anything. Maybe a small condo in the downtown area, a townhouse out in the Langford, West Shore, Souk area. But a lot of the markets that we're looking into here on the island is your Duncans and Nanaimos, Port Alberni's, maybe like those second to third area markets, which probably like you can get a lot for that $400,000 mark. And so the way I've seen like a lot of first-time home buyers here on the island kind of transition away from the downtown core area, that real south tip of the island piece, transition more so in towards that Langfords over the last 4 years or so. And then now I think with this program, we're probably going to see a lot more kind of like boom, I'll say, into like the Souks, the Duncans, the second, third area markets. Is that kind of like what you're going to see over on the mainland too?
Yeah, I mean, now there's an additional, it depends on the market. So if in Victoria, if you just can't really get anything reasonable for under that $500,000 threshold roughly, then what you'll find is that there's now an additional incentive to buy something in the price range where you can save $100 a month, right? So all of a sudden people will say, well, Jay, it's cheaper over here, but also not just cheaper price-wise, but also we can buy something for this a slightly lower price, but also be able to go into the incentive program and save an extra $100 a month. So I think you're right. I think it will push a few more people into that. I don't know if it'll really have a big impact on the larger urban centers where your typical price point is at or above the amount that they're allowing for the incentive.
Okay. I'm just curious, like if you're going to have like kind of co-title ownership, say if like parents are going to help support kids and they go like 1% onto the title, does that like $120,000 household income apply to like both parties, or is it combined, or how would that look?
Yeah, good question. I'm going to see if we have some notes on that, because that's one of the things that we were wanting to verify here. So let me just pull it up. Yeah, so it does include guarantors. So if you need help, financial help from parents to qualify for the mortgage, then it's not the right program. Which does mean, again, the 4 times the income limiter that brings the debt servicing in line anyways. So really the only cases where you want guarantors to come in to help you qualify is if you already carry a lot of outside debt to the table. So if you didn't have the debt, you could qualify on your own, but because you have the debt, you need guarantors, you won't be a fit for the program. A way of getting around that, though, of course, is instead of parents being guarantors, maybe they would help you out by paying off some of your debts to help you qualify instead.
Right. Gotcha. So at kind of first glance, especially over the short term for anybody looking to get into the market with this program, it looks pretty friggin' solid. Like the government's basically going to give me 5% of my down payment so that my payments are lower and I can actually get into that kind of market. into the real estate market and become a home owner, which I know lots of people, pride themselves on as a big goal in their life. Thinking a long-term way down the road, when you have to pay back that debt, what does that look like? So we buy the house for 400, let's say in 5 years or in 10 years, we sell it for X more. I'll let you use your own example. How do we end up paying back the CMHC portion of it? And what does that look like long-term?
Yeah. So you either pay it back at the earlier of two things, which would be either when you sell the property or when the mortgage amortization is over, so 25 years. Now what happens is you have to pay them back based off of the appreciation that happens. So if they lent you 5% of the purchase price in the beginning, then you have to repay them back the amount you borrowed from them plus 5% of the appreciation that occurred. So I did some math on this just to run some numbers, but really the core of this, what it comes down to is that if we assume that the annual percentage for your mortgage is going to be around 3% for most of your term of your mortgage, the appreciation, if it outpaces the interest rate, then you actually end up paying more back in the end. So if I look at a 3% annual appreciation per year on the real estate, technically, because that amount is compounding, you're actually going to find that you would pay slightly more if you actually took the government up on this program with 3% appreciation compared to the savings of not paying a little less than 3% on your mortgage rate. So one of the questions is going to be, what do you expect the appreciation to be on the property? If you're planning on buying a property for, let's say, 5 years, and you're buying in a really hot market that you think will appreciate at 10% per year, let's say, then the program's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense for you unless you really need to shave off on those monthly payments, and that's your primary goal or focus. But in many cases, for my models, I'm usually using an annual appreciation rate of 3% per year. I think that's a reasonable number to use. And I think that using an annual interest rate of about 3% per year is reasonable too. But if you're borrowing the money for 25 years, you don't think you're going to sell the property for 25 years, 3% might be a little bit low on the interest cost side. I expect the interest rates will stay low for at least another 5 years. But what happens in year 15 if you still haven't sold it and interest rates are now 8%, and you still are borrowing that money interest free? Then now all of a sudden it's going to make a lot more sense that you did take up the program.
Right. So in essence, you save more now because somebody's giving you 5%, but then you might pay a little bit more down the road in appreciating markets.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. One thing that we're also trying to figure out and get some more clarity on is what happens if you put appreciation, that equity into the property. Mm-hmm. So what happens if you do renovations and you spent 50 grand or 100 grand on renovations for the property? Are you repaying the government for that money, or can you save receipts to show that you've improved it? So that's one thing that we're actually trying to get some clarity on now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was going to be one of my next questions, actually, was exactly that. So reverse things a little bit. Let's say, our markets don't appreciate as quickly and everything flattens off, or even worse, like, we take a small dip. What happens if we have to sell 5 years down the road and our $400,000 house is now worth $350,000?
Yeah, technically it's a home partnership program, and that means that the government will actually share in it. So you'll actually pay them less back when you do sell the property, which is a cool feature. Yeah, I mean, most people aren't buying real estate because they anticipate the values will drop. But at the end of the day, it's a small benefit. So they'll share in that dip with you.
Okay, that's interesting. Not taking that full 5% they loaned you, but it'll actually be a little bit smaller than that. Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then there's portable mortgages as well. So, own a house for 3 years, let's say, and end up porting that mortgage over for the last remaining years onto a new property. Is this portable, or is that a completely different product?
If you sell the home, then you need to repay it. So our understanding is that you're not able to port that, but when you do port your mortgage later, you should be able to increase the loan that you have with your bank to eat up and pay back to the government when you do port it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're not taking that as such a big hit.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. I think this is really going to be helpful for a lot of people to become homeowners in out of the core of Victoria, outskirts, Vancouver, and then the secondary markets on the island here. and across, all of Canada. I think I heard a stat that was like available, or it allows about 100,000 people to get back into the market across Canada, which can really kind of like insulate our real estate market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's just a matter of how many people actually take the government up on the program. The last incentive we saw that came out from the government to help first-time homebuyers was the BC program that came out a few years ago. And the number of people that actually used the program versus the number that they expected was completely off. And so it is a question that we want to see is how easy is the program to actually use? The last program with the BC government was rather arduous and it was a lot of work, and a lot of people said, the benefit versus the savings, it's almost negligible, which in this case is it's similar. I think this program's better, but it's not a blow away. Absolutely, there's no reason not to take it. So it is a question of how easy it is to actually go through this program, because if people have to spend hours and hours applying for it and jumping through hoops to the government to get this done, then you're not going to see a lot of people jump on it, and the $100,000 number could be drastically overrated.
Right, I gotcha. So what would be your advice for people who are considering looking into this type of program?
Yeah, I mean, at its core, just make sure you weigh the pros and cons to it. I think that if your intention is to buy the property, it's considerably undervalued now, and you plan on flipping the home in the next couple of years, especially if you plan on doing any work to it, because that's something we still need to get clarity on. This program may not be the right fit for you. But if you're just looking at buying a home, especially if it's brand new, you can borrow more money. You can get 10% instead of 5%. And you're probably not going to be putting money into it, so the appreciation or forced appreciation won't be there. And you'll be able to save on CMHC premiums. There's some real tangible benefits here that can work as long as the program is the right fit for you. So it's just a matter of asking the right questions. And we'll be asking our first-time home buyers if they've done the research and if they know about the program, making sure that we send them more information about it, and just weighing it out and figuring if it works.
Gotcha, cool.
Yeah.
We have a couple events coming up over the fall. We're back into our monthly meetups. Our next one is September 17th, and then following every third Tuesday of each month. I think I saw on your social media too that you're speaking at an event in Vancouver soon.
Yep. I'm going to be speaking with a group of Western Canadian Properties Group. So they do a lot of real estate investments, and also both on the ownership side, but also not direct ownership, so buying into shares essentially of funds. So lots of cool things coming up with that event. I'm a busy guy. Actually, I'm flying around quite a bit in the next little while. I'm going to be in Edmonton for their Acre event at the end of September, and on September 21st, I'll be here in Vancouver speaking at Aussie Xerox Outlook Conference.
Oh yeah.
And then there's Keyspire is another group I'm speaking for at the end of October. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Which is great for everybody watching this, because regardless if you live on the island, in Vancouver, or wherever Keyspire event is going to be, we can get in front of you and ask you some questions particular about our specific situation. And for anybody who doesn't know who Kyle is, he's one of our sponsors of our meetup, and just a wealth of knowledge and investment. And one of the guys that we work very closely with on all of our deals, and we highly recommend him for either your first-time home buyer, your next-time home buyer, or your seasoned investor. Him and his team are really phenomenal, and I highly encourage you to go to the events, whether it be Rain or Keyspire or our meetups in the future. So thank you so much for your time, man. It's so good to see you. We were chatting beforehand that you had a really great trip overseas. I'm glad that you had a good time, and
yep.
I'm looking forward to catching up one of these days in between all your globetrotting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's awesome. Cool. Thanks for inviting me on the call. I really appreciate it. And have an awesome day.
Thanks, Kyle. You too. Good to see you.
You too.